Hello, my students. Today we have lecture number 7, chemical bonds. In lecture we have several problems. There are electron shells, ionic bonds, covalent and metallic bonds. Before we consider the chemical bonds, we can consider atom. Atom is the smallest unit of matter in divisible. For example, you can see on the slide helium atom. Then about electron shells. Electron shells. In electron shells located chemical electrons. They place depended on following principles: A, atomic number equal to number of electrons. Second, B, electrons vary in the amount of energy they possess and they occur at certain energy levels, or electron shells. C, electron shells determine how an atom behaves when it encounters other atoms. Electrons are placed in shells according to rules. First, the first shell can hold up to 2 electrons, and each shell can hold up 8 electrons. On next slide you can see example for this situation. For example, hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen and oxygen elements they consists electrons according their chemical properties and place in the periodic table. Why are electrons important? Because elements have different electron configurations. Different electron configurations mean different levels of bonding. Electron dot structures you can see on the next slide. For example, hydrogen, lithium, sodium and other. Chemical bonds are attempts to fill electron shells. Ionic bonds, covalent bonds and metallic bonds. Ionic bonds. Ionic bond formed between 2 ions by the transfer of electrons. Ionic bonds formed especially in the solution ions. Formation of ions from metals. Ionic compound result when metals react with non-metals. For example, sodium plus chlorine. Metals lose electrons too much the number of valence electrons of their nearest noble gas. Formation of sodium ion you can see on the slide. Sodium ion loses 1 electron and becomes sodium ion. Sodium atoms becomes sodium ion. Formation of magnesium ion similar to sodium ion. Magnesium ion can lose 2 electrons and becomes magnesium ion. And some typical ions with positive charge. For example, we can take several groups groups, several elements of groups. For example, groups 1, group 2, and 3. Depending on their location in the periodic table, in the group, they can give several ions number. For example, magnesium can give 2 ions. For check your meaning, we can give check testing. For example, a number of valence electrons in aluminum. Here on the slide we can see solution for this test. Ions from non-metal ions. In this situation, ions from non-metal ions format depend on their situation. This situation in ionic compound, non-metals in 15, 16, and 17 gain electrons from metals. Non-metal ions charge have 3 minus, 2 minus, or 1 minus ions. Fluoride ion, for example, you can see on the slide. Ionic bond formed between atoms of metals and non-metals with very different electronegativity. Second, bond formed by transfer of elements. And for example, sodium chloride, calcium chloride, and potassium oxide you can take. On the slide we can see electrostatic attraction. On next slide we can see structure of sodium and chloride ions. Second type of chemical bonds is covalent bond. Covalent bond formed by the sharing of electrons. Covalent bond formed between non-metallic elements of similar electronegativity, formed by sharing electron pairs, stable non-ionizing particles. They are not conductors at any state. For example, we can take oxygen, carboxide, water, and other chemical substance. Covalent bond formed between atoms which have similar electronegativity. Bonding in all the polyatomic ions and diatomic are all covalent bonds. In covalent bond we can divide to two types. There are non-polar and polar covalent bonds. Non-polar covalent bonds formed when electrons are shared equally. For example, we can take as non-polar covalent bonds hydrogen or fluorine atoms, molecules. covalent bonds. Two atoms share one or more pairs of outer shell electrons. For example, oxygen atom and between chemical process between oxygen atoms. In the result, this reaction, we can see forming molecule of oxygen. Polar covalent bonding when electrons are shared, but shared unequality. For example, we can take water molecule. On slide, we can see mechanism of forming water molecule. About metallic bond formed especially between atoms of metals holds metal atoms together very strongly. Metallic bond formed between atoms of metallic elements, electron float around atoms. For example, sodium, iron, aluminum, coal, and cobalt elements. That's all. If you haven't any question about lecture, I have finished lecture. Goodbye.